Sex, drugs, and stock manipulation are the stuff you might expect in a Martin Scorsese movie, but for Jordan Belfort and his firm, Stratton Oakmont, that was reality. They shook up Wall Street, making a fortune through dubious and often illegal trading. Belfort's memoir, The Wolf of Wall Street, turned movie, recounts his wild ride into self-destruction fueled by drugs and reckless behavior. In this video, we take a closer look at Belfort's rise, his illegal schemes, and his near-fatal indulgences, while exploring the broader landscape of 90s Wall Street and its lingering shadows today. Let's get started. Before he became the infamous Wolf of Wall Street, Belfort's journey began with humble beginnings and personal struggles. Raised in a tumultuous household marked by his father's alternating abusive and caring behavior and his mother's passive stance, Belfort found solace in academic achievement despite battling insomnia and anxiety from a young age. His pursuit of guaranteed wealth led him to drop out of dental school and venture into the food services business, which ultimately failed. Along the way, he married his first wife, whom he later cheated on and divorced. In 1987, Belfort entered the world of stock trading at L.F. Rothschild during the bond securities market boom. By 1993, he had founded his own investment firm, Stratton Oakmont, based in Long Island, New York. Despite his professional success, Belfort's personal life was characterized by a hedonistic lifestyle filled with parties, substance abuse, and infidelity. Belfort contends that such behaviors were commonplace among Wall Street traders as a means of coping with the stresses of their jobs. At Stratton Oakmont, Belfort cultivated a culture of excess, where making money was not just about financial gain, but also extravagant spending. He recruited young traders, molding them into disciples who believed in the mantra that money could solve any problem and that projecting wealth attracted more wealth. With the advent of the electronic NASDAQ stock exchange, physical proximity to Wall Street became less important. Belfort capitalized on this by situating Stratton Oakmont on Long Island, where he could exert greater control over his team. He deliberately targeted impressionable individuals, indoctrinating them with his beliefs. 1. Money is the solution to every single problem. 2. It's vital to make money while you're young and still able. 3. If you act like you're already rich, then the universe will make it so. While Belfort's first principle acknowledges that money can solve certain problems, it is essential to appreciate its potential to create new ones. That's why financial experts caution against obsession with wealth, emphasizing the importance of emotional growth alongside financial success to avoid negative consequences. Preparation for retirement at a young age, as advocated by Belfort in his second principle, aligns with advice from other financial experts who emphasize the benefits of early investment. As for the third principle, acting like you're already rich, Belfort's leadership style relied on setting an example of lavish spending and indulgence, creating an environment where extreme behavior was normalized. However, this culture contradicts prudent financial principles, fostering a culture of extravagance and dependency at Stratton Oakmont. In fact, Belfort ultimately found himself trapped by the persona he had cultivated, as he was expected to maintain a facade of extravagance and excess to retain control over his team. Belfort's illegal activities weren't just a side gig, they were his ticket to wealth, and ultimately, his downfall. He spent a considerable amount of time scheming ways to hide his shady dealings from regulators because so many of his business moves violated state and federal laws. According to Belfort, stockbrokers like him aren't financial wizards. They're essentially slick salespeople. He founded Stratton Oakmont with this idea in mind, assembling a team of young, inexperienced traders who were great at selling stocks, but lacked deep financial knowledge. Stratton Oakmont didn't make money by targeting small-time investors with penny stocks like other shady traders did. Instead, they preyed on the wealthy by selling them inflated stocks under the guise of get-rich-quick schemes. Belfort believed this strategy worked because rich folks often viewed stock trading as a form of gambling, making them easy targets for sketchy stock pitches. The SEC, tasked with regulating the stock market, investigated Stratton Oakmont for years without fully understanding the firm's true nature. Let's go over the main tactics Belfort used to commit financial crimes. 1. Stock price manipulation, particularly during initial public offerings, IPOs. Among the array of tactics available to investment firms, Stratton Oakmont had a favorite: stock price manipulation. Belfort's crew would artificially pump up the price of a company's stock during its initial public offering, IPO, all while holding on to more shares than allowed by SEC rules. Belfort gives us a peek into this scheme with the case of Steve Madden's Shoes, a company he helped take public. Here's how the manipulation worked. Belfort would heavily invest in a new business like Steve Madden's Shoes, then use his influence to make it go public. His brokers would then use aggressive tactics to jack up the stock price when selling to investors. Once the price was high enough, Belfort would sell off some of his shares to cover his initial investment, leaving him with stocks that were now worth a lot more than what he paid for them. However, SEC rules limit how much stock an investment firm can hold during an IPO. Belfort and Stratton Oakmont held onto far more shares of Steve Madden Shoes than they were supposed to, violating these regulations. During an IPO, the role of an investment bank like Stratton Oakmont is to guide the company through the process and instill confidence in potential investors. To prevent manipulation like what Belfort engaged in, people within the company are usually barred from selling their shares for a set period after the IPO, known as the lockup period. This measure, along with stricter SEC regulations, has led to a decline in the number of IPOs since Belfort's heyday. However, it's unclear if the increase in regulations is solely responsible for this trend. 2. Manipulation of stock ownership through proxies. Belfort employed proxies, individuals who held stock on his behalf, while appearing as the official owners, to conceal the extent of his stock ownership. In the case of the Madden IPO, Steve Madden himself acted as Belfort's main proxy. Before the IPO, Stratton Oakmont transferred ownership of Madden's stock back to Madden, but it was understood, based on trust, that Belfort remained the true owner. Belfort explains that this practice is legal as long as the shares don't exceed 5% of the company. However, Belfort's proxies held over 50% of the business, including shares owned by other proxies unknown to Madden. Belfort argues that such tactics are widespread on Wall Street, suggesting that market practices are designed to facilitate stock manipulation. For example, prior to the IPO, Madden's stock was valued at $4 per share, but market rules allowed Belfort to set the opening price at $5.50 per share, inflating its value before trading even began. Throughout the day, Stratton traders drove up the price while selling to investors and other investment firms, who eagerly participated in boosting the stock price, with the understanding that Stratton Oakmont would repurchase the inflated shares before the market closed. By day's end, Belfort and Stratton Oakmont retained a controlling interest in Madden Shoes, now valued at $19 per share. Belfort's manipulation of Madden's stock price, without disclosing his controlling interest, constitutes insider trading, which often goes unpunished due to lax disclosure regulations and complex ownership structures. Belfort also benefited from collaboration with other investment firms, raising concerns about potential collusion among banks to inflate consumer prices, not just stock prices. These issues may extend beyond individual brokers enriching themselves at the expense of investors. 3. Money laundering. After accumulating illicit wealth, the challenge shifts to hiding and accessing the money without arousing suspicion. Money laundering, the process of making illegally obtained money appear legitimate, finds a conducive environment in the Swiss banking system, according to Belfort. Utilizing secret accounts, fictitious corporations, and covert transfer mechanisms, he managed to transfer funds back to the US under the guise of innocuous transactions. Belfort's journey to Switzerland revealed a banking system adept at concealing vast sums of money, with a policy of non-cooperation with foreign institutions like the US SEC In order to bypass scrutiny, Belfort opened accounts in the names of proxies, individuals entrusted to smuggle cash across borders discreetly. This necessitated using trustworthy individuals unlikely to attract attention, such as his elderly British aunt and a Swiss relative of one of his drug dealers. To access and control his overseas funds, Belfort enlisted the help of a specialist in creating fictitious corporations. These bearer companies, devoid of Belfort's name, relied on physical stock certificates held by him. Acting as his corporate proxy, the specialist falsified documents to lend legitimacy to Belfort's companies and conducted business on his behalf, fabricating paper trails to justify fund transfers between entities. Belfort utilized two primary methods to repatriate funds to the U.S. Firstly, he exploited a U.S. legal loophole known as Regulation S, which exempted overseas companies from certain restrictions on U.S. investors. Through his Swiss businesses, Belfort could invest in the U.S. stock market in ways prohibited to U.S. citizens. Secondly, he employed transfer pricing, wherein overseas companies overpaid U.S. businesses owned by him for services or goods, often only existing on paper. By establishing fake corporations globally, Belfort could move money under the guise of legitimate business transactions. Chapter 3. Consequences. Jordan Belfort's journey took a dark turn due to his wild lifestyle, leading to dire consequences. His addiction to drugs, risky behavior, and indulgence in excess continued even after leaving Stratton Oakmont. He recounts the risky path he took, from attempting to distance himself from the firm to facing the FBI's investigation. In 1994, the SEC offered Belfort a deal to escape Stratton Oakmont's chaos. They'd end their investigation if he left the securities trading business. Belfort accepted, but continued to advise the firm secretly. Despite the opportunity for a fresh start, he couldn't let go of the trading world's allure. Although the SEC deal seemed like a way out, troubles brewed. Madden, his proxy owner, hesitated to return his stocks, and rumors swirled about Parrish's mismanagement at Stratton Oakmont. Worse, the FBI launched an investigation targeting Belfort, signaling trouble ahead. Belfort's wealth didn't shield him from personal turmoil. His drug addiction, primarily to Quaaludes, spiraled out of control. Delirious and high, he caused a car crash, escaping consequences thanks to a friend's intervention. Despite attempts to quit, his addiction persisted, leading to a near-fatal encounter during a storm in Rome. In 1996, Belfort's reckless behavior reached a climax during a drug-fueled yacht trip. Ignoring the looming storm, he endangered himself and his friends. The situation turned dire, but they prioritized saving their drugs over their lives. Rescued by the Italian Navy, Belfort vowed to overcome his addiction. Belfort kept his promise, but not in the way one might expect. By 1997, he had swapped Quaaludes for cocaine, leading to insomnia, paranoia, and violent outbursts at home. In a desperate search for drugs, he even threatened his wife Nadine and destroyed their belongings. Nadine returned to take their children, triggering a violent confrontation. Belfort kicked her down the stairs and drove his car through their garage in a fit of rage. Arrested again, his lawyer advised him to lay low in Florida, but Belfort chose to stay high on drugs, avoiding the mess he created. Trapped in a cycle of addiction, Belfort's life hit rock bottom. Desperate for a way out, he attempted suicide with morphine pills. Saved by a friend, he was hospitalized and faced an intervention from Nadine. She gave him an ultimatum: rehab or losing her forever. In rehab, Belfort confronted his addiction and codependency with Nadine. As he embraced sobriety, he rediscovered clarity and happiness. Returning to New York, he focused on rebuilding his life, repairing his marriage, and reconnecting with his children. However, his newfound peace was short-lived. In September 1998, the FBI arrested him for money laundering and fraud. Nadine filed for divorce shortly after, marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of another in Belfort's tumultuous journey. Is it time for society to reevaluate its views on success and the cost it sometimes entails? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, we have more summaries, so subscribe. Remember to like the video and share it widely.